Born on March 28, 1936, Amancio Ortega Gayona rose from humble beginnings in Spain to become one of the wealthiest businessmen in the world. He's the mastermind behind the Inditex fashion empire, the company best known for global brands like Zara and Bershka. Ortega isn't just a businessman, he's considered a true pioneer of the fast fashion industry. As of May 2025, his fortune sits at around $107 billion, making him the second richest person in Europe, right after Bernard Arnault, and the 16th wealthiest globally. And believe it or not, back in 2015, Ortega briefly held the title of the richest man on the planet, even surpassing Bill Gates when Inditex stock hit its peak. Today, he remains the head of the Ortega family and stands as the second wealthiest retailer in the world. Ortega's story starts in a small Spanish town. He was the youngest of four children, born in Bustongo de Arbas, León, to Antonio Ortega Rodriguez and Josefa Gayona Hernandez. His childhood was spent in the Basque Country in a town called Tolosa. Life wasn't easy. At just 14 years old, Ortega left school and moved with his family to A Coruña, where his father worked as a railway employee. It was there that his journey into fashion quietly began. He took up work as a shop assistant at a small local shirt maker called Gala, a store that still stands on the very same corner in downtown A Coruña. That's where Ortega first learned the craft of making clothes by hand, a skill that would eventually transform the global fashion industry. By 1963, Ortega took his first real step into business when he founded Confecciones Gao, a small company that produced quilted bathrobes. But his big breakthrough came in 1975, when he and his wife Rosalía Mera opened the very first Zara store in A Coruña. From that single store, the empire exploded. By 2009, Zara had become part of the Inditex group, a fashion powerhouse that Ortega still controlled, owning nearly 60% of it. Inditex wasn't just Zara anymore. It had grown into a global giant with more than 6,000 stores and brands like Massimo Dutti, Stradivarius, Pull&Bear, Oysho, Bershka, Zara Home, and more. Over 92,000 employees worldwide were now working under the empire Ortega had built. Despite his massive success, Ortega himself remained a mystery. He rarely appeared in public, and until today, he has only ever given interviews to just 3 journalists. His first major public appearance came in 2000, right before Inditex IPO, which made huge waves in Spanish financial press. But Ortega wasn't just about business. In 2009, he was honored with the Knight Grand Cross of the Order of Civil Merit. 2 years later, in 2011, he announced his retirement from Inditex, handing over leadership to Pablo Isla. Around this time, Ortega also began focusing heavily on philanthropy. In 2012, he donated around 20 million euros to Caritas Internationalis, a Roman Catholic relief organization. Later, in 2017, he made headlines again by donating 300 million euros to fight cancer in Spain, funding more than 440 new diagnostic machines that transformed treatment across public hospitals, though not without criticism from certain political groups.
Beyond fashion and charity, Ortega also invested heavily in real estate. He purchased landmark properties like Madrid's Torre Picasso, Miami's Epic Residences, and even Seattle's Troy Block, one of the buildings housing Amazon's headquarters. His investment company, Ponte Gadea, has amassed a real estate portfolio worth over $17 billion, with properties in Manhattan, Chicago, Washington, and more. Yet, Ortega's fortune hasn't been without setbacks. During the COVID-19 pandemic, he was reported to have lost as much as $10 billion due to global market disruptions. Still, his empire and legacy remain among the strongest in the world of business. By 2021, Ortega's fortune was estimated at more than 73 billion euros, cementing his place as one of the richest men in Europe. Much of this wealth came from his majority stake in Inditex. He controlled nearly 60 to 65% of the company, which kept him firmly at the top of the retail world. But Ortega's empire wasn't built on fashion alone. Through his investment company Ponte Gadea, he consolidated all his assets, branching out into real estate and finance. In Spain, he owns over 20 prime properties across Madrid and Barcelona, lining prestigious streets like Paseo de la Castellana, Serrano, Recoletos, and Paseo de Gracia. Internationally, his reach extends into the heart of Europe, with properties in Paris, Berlin, Rome, Lisbon, and London. And his investments didn't stop at real estate. In 2019, Ponte Gadea purchased a 5% stake in Spanish energy company Enagás for nearly 282 million euros. By 2021, Ortega expanded further, acquiring another 5% in Red Eléctrica and a 12% stake in Portugal's national energy operator. These moves showed how Ortega was diversifying his wealth far beyond fashion. Fast forward to 2024, and Forbes listed Amancio Ortega's net worth at an astonishing $103 billion, a fortune that keeps him among the wealthiest individuals on Earth. Beyond wealth and business, Amancio Ortega also dedicated himself to philanthropy. In 2001, he founded the Amancio Ortega Foundation, a private nonprofit based in Artejo, with the mission to support education and social welfare. The foundation quickly made an impact. In 2012, it donated 20 million euros to Caritas, marking the largest single donation the NGO had ever received. Another of its flagship initiatives is a scholarship program, giving Spanish students the chance to spend their first year of high school abroad, either in Canada or the United States. By the 2016-2017 academic year, 500 scholarships were granted, equally split between the two countries. But perhaps Ortega's most remarkable contribution came in 2017 on his 81st birthday, when his foundation pledged 320 million euros to strengthen Spain's public healthcare system in the fight against cancer. This came after an earlier 17 million euro donation in 2015. The funds were used to purchase more than 290 cutting-edge machines for cancer detection and treatment, dramatically improving hospital capacity across Spain. That same year, Ortega's efforts were recognized with the Philanthropic Initiative Award by the Spanish Association of Foundations.
And he didn't stop there. In November 2024, Ortega set up a 100 million euro emergency fund to support communities in Valencia hit hardest by the devastating Dana storm system. Acts like these show that his influence goes far beyond business, shaping lives through education, healthcare, and disaster relief. Despite being one of the richest men on Earth, Amancio Ortega has always lived a life of secrecy and simplicity. As of 2012, he had only ever given 3 interviews to journalists. In fact, until 1999, not a single photograph of him had ever been published. His style reflects his personality, modest and understated. Ortega avoids ties and prefers a simple daily uniform, a blue blazer, a white shirt, and gray trousers. Interestingly, none of these clothes come from Zara. In his personal life, Ortega married Rosalía Mera in 1966. They had 2 children, Marcos and Sandra, before divorcing in 1986. Tragically, Rosalía Mera passed away in 2013, at the age of 69. Ortega later married his second wife, Flora Perez Marcote, in 2001, with whom he has a daughter, Marta Ortega, born in 1984. Today, Marta is seen as the future face of Inditex. Despite his immense fortune and vast real estate empire, Ortega chooses to live quietly with his wife in a modest apartment in A Coruña, Spain. Of course, he still owns a few luxuries, including 2 yachts, Drizzle and Valoria B, along with a Gulfstream G650 private jet. But overall, his lifestyle remains surprisingly grounded for a man of his stature. From the son of a railway worker in a small Spanish town to the founder of a fashion empire that reshaped the way the world shops, Amancio Ortega's story is nothing short of extraordinary. He began as a teenage shop assistant, learning to stitch clothes by hand, and went on to create Zara, a brand that changed retail forever. Along the way, he built Inditex into one of the largest fashion groups on the planet, making him one of the wealthiest men in history. But behind the billions, Ortega remained private, almost invisible. Rarely photographed, rarely interviewed, he let his work and his empire speak for him. His legacy isn't just in the clothes millions of people wear every day, but also in the hospitals strengthened by his donations, the students educated through his scholarships, and the communities rebuilt after disaster. Even today, living quietly in A Coruña, Spain, Ortega stands as a symbol of what's possible, that from humble beginnings, with vision, persistence, and discipline, one person can reshape industries, touch millions of lives, and still remain grounded. This is the story of Amancio Ortega, the invisible billionaire who dressed the world.